Hello, good evening. Happy Black History Month to everyone. Welcome to the Smart Investing Show with Alton Brooks. Your host is a businessman, he's a community builder, and he's someone who wants his community to be more knowledgeable when it comes to investments and business. This show is designed to provide this type of exchange of ideas that we can uplift each other and have more opportunities to have commerce with each other. To that end, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I have a university degree in economics, majoring in finance, technology, and psychology. For the last 25 years, I've worked in the technology and finance field, including the last 5 years managing a large industrial computer manufacturer in the GTA. Currently, I'm the principal strategist at Fifth Dimension Trading in Toronto. So tonight's topic is going to be the elephant in the room, the 800-pound gorilla called COVID-19. And to that end, we have brought on tonight a leading expert in the field to break down how this pandemic has affected business and how it will continue to, and give us more information about this very terrible virus that has taken over the world. We'll also have on the other part of our program an individual who thought this is the best time to actually start a business in the middle of this pandemic. So I want to hear what she will have to say as well. So without further ado, let me introduce our first guest, which will be Dr. Sylvanus Thompson. Dr. Thompson, please join us. How are you this evening, sir?
I'm good, Alton. Thanks for having me. A blessed good night to you, to Chef Karima, and to the audience.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate you joining us. And before we begin, how are you and how's your family?
Everything is blessed.
Everything is
as blessed as can be under the circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Still under lockdown, so it's kind of cold outside, but no worries. Can't go outside anyway, so everything is good.
Right. Well, that's terrific. Just to give you a little idea of the type of individual we've brought on tonight as an expert, let me give you a little background on Dr. Thompson. He's a former associate director and food safety lead for the Toronto Public Health. His formal education includes a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Health, a Master of Science in Food Safety, and a PhD in Public Administration. He is also a fellow of the Canadian Health Service Research Foundation, which is focused on evidence-based decision-making. And he also has extensive training and experience in developing, implementing, and evaluating public health programs and services. And he's also a major resource when it comes to environmental public health issues, particularly in food safety and quality assurance. So Dr. T, you have a very impressive bio. That's a very small part of it, to be honest with you. And I'd probably spend the next 20 minutes doing the rest. So I really appreciate you coming on as an expert to tell us, our community, about what your thoughts are. And let me start with your early years. What made you want to go into the line of work that you spent many years doing until recently retiring from the Toronto Public Health?
Okay, so like you said, that's many years ago, right? So I actually got involved in public health after observing a public health inspector in Jamaica doing an inspection of a carcass. He was inspecting the carcass to ensure that it was fit for human consumption. And after observing him, I thought this was pretty neat. And I thought this is something maybe I would want to do. I kind of like the fact that he was doing something to ensure that persons are safe. He had some amount of authority And even more so, there was a certain amount of respect that was given towards it. So I thought this was something that I would maybe want to do. I did my research. I found West Indies School of Public Health in Kingston, Jamaica. I completed a diploma in Royal Society of Health at West Indies School of Public Health. And that's where my public health work started. And you know what was interesting is that only a few years after observing this inspector doing a meat inspection, I was involved in developing the butcher's regulation and the meat inspection regulation. And since then, I've worked at a number of areas in public health in Jamaica, almost every area of public health in Jamaica, spanning over 24 years. So that's where it all started, Mr. Brooks.
As we're here to talk about how this relates to business, what is the relationship between the spread of COVID and the food industry itself?
So I maybe would want to frame it as the implications or the impact of COVID on food safety rather than the spread. Currently, there's no evidence to indicate that COVID can be spread through the consumption of food or even handling packages. Right? There's no evidence to indicate that. You might see some stuff, some people might suggest certain things, but currently, based on the WHO and all the leading scientists, there's no evidence to indicate that there has been any illness of COVID, from food consumption. However, the environment, the food industry, the environment is really conducive to the spread of COVID. You look at the staff working in a food establishment. COVID can spread easily from staff to staff, and we're seeing quite a bit of COVID spread, not necessarily from in the food industry, but in a setting, a work setting. And again, you have consumers. You have a large numbers of persons, or you're likely to have large numbers of persons, and you only need one infected person in an enclosed environment for a long period of time for COVID to spread. So COVID can spread, that way. So not necessarily the spread from food itself, but the environment. And when you look at it, the food industry is maybe one of the most important segments of the economy. And from transportation, production, transportation, sale and consumption of food, everybody can be impacted. Staff losing their work, you have business being shut down, and you have consumers with less choices, as a result of food establishments being closed. So it has significant implications for the industry more so than the spread.
Thank you very much for that. Let's talk about Dine Safe. It's a program that you had a big part in, and it was quite successful. Tell us about that, and also tell us, if you can, when it comes to returning to sit down in the restaurant industry, for instance, what are the possibilities of that? There's been a lot of fits and starts, and you start, you come back. How can that be maintained in a safe manner?
Okay, so if I could answer that, Alton, maybe the Minister of Health or the Chief Medical Officer of Health, I can answer the last part.
Well, tell us the best possible way.
Okay, that's fine. But in terms of a Dine Safe program, I helped to develop the Dine Safe program. It was implemented back in 2001. And it actually started after a series of articles in the Toronto Star that had raising some issues, some concerns about the food safety program in Toronto. It was actually called dirty dining. So there was definitely a need to do something about that. So a program was developed, doing lots of research, checking out other municipalities in other countries to see what they were doing. And then we finally developed a program where the owners and operators, they were required to post the inspection results at a conspicuous point or close to the entrance of the premises to give consumers the information about the findings from the inspection, and that would help them to make informed decision about where to eat food. If there were no concerns, then a green notice is posted, a pass. And if there are concerns that will not necessarily make someone sick, but it needs to address, it's a notice. And of course, if there were concerns that could lead to someone getting sick, then it would be a closed notice, a red closed notice that would be issued. So that was developed back in 2001. Like I said, the compliance rate prior to the start of the program, we had less than 50% of the the restaurants, the 17,000 restaurants in Toronto, complying with the requirements. In the first year of the program, the compliance rate increased to 78%. And over the last couple of years, it has consistently been over 90%. So there was definitely some significant improvement as a result of the implementation of that program. Consumer confidence also, significantly improved as a result of the implementation of that program. So I'm very proud of that program. And in fact, we moved from dirty dining in 2000 to receiving the Combined Consumer Protection Award, I think in 2013, for food safety protection, for consumer protection. It's one of the most prestigious awards that can be given to any municipality for food safety. And Toronto Public Health was the first municipality outside of the US that was receiving that award. So I'm very, very proud of that achievement and my contribution to that. In terms of the second part of your question about when food premises might go back to where it was. Remember we started with just allowing food premises to do takeout, delivery, and the drive-through. So the indoor consumption, indoor dining piece was kind of banned, and it still is under the current lockdown, at least in Toronto and some other municipalities. So, like I said, once we have the environment through which COVID can be spread in a situation like that, it's very difficult, not be very, very difficult to get back to the situation to what would maybe call normal, where we have indoor dining. One of the challenges is consumer confidence. How confident will consumers be in going back inside of a closed environment to consume food with maybe number of strangers, right? Yes, we're having the vaccine coming, but the impact of the vaccine will take quite some while. So in the short term, how comfortable will consumers be? The owners operators, there are a number of guidelines developed by the province, by municipalities, in which will help them to operate safely. The number one thing is that they need to have a safety plan. What plans do they have for reopening safely to ensure consumers are safe? What plans do they have for physical distancing? What plans do they have for screening of staff, active screening of staff on a daily basis? What plans do they have for maybe passive screening of consumers, ensuring that it could be simply putting up some notices, if you're sick, please do not enter. And cleaning and sanitization, all that kind of stuff, training of staff. So if all those can be implemented, then yes, we can go back on a phase basis to indoor dining, but it definitely will not be a quick process.
Well, I thank you for that, and we appreciate that answer. Now, I'd be remiss if I have someone with the pedigree that you have on tonight and not have an ability for the folks that are watching to somehow interact with you. So very shortly, we're going to have a phone number on your screen that if you have a question for our expert tonight, if you're running a business, and you have a question in regard to food safety, you can call in and talk to him right now. So we will have a phone number posted shortly while we conversate with Dr. Thompson, one of the international worldwide experts in the field of food safety. Dr. Thompson, tell us the most important things we can do to handle food safely and avoid contamination.
Okay, so there are a number of things that can be done to ensure that food is prepared and sold in a safe manner. Food is said to be the staff of life. It is required for persons to survive. But if not handled carefully, food can be a source of illness. And foodborne illness maybe is one of their biggest concerns. In Toronto, for example, we did a study a couple of years ago, and we found that 1 in every 6 person would come down with foodborne illness on an annual basis. So foodborne illness is pretty significant and pretty important. In most cases, the illness will last for a couple of days, maybe a couple of hours, and then it disappears. But in some cases, depending on what the organism is, it could be significant illness and could even lead to death. So persons, consumers, and owners, operators of business need to ensure that they take every step required to ensure food safety. So food safety responsibility, it falls on the consumer, the owners and operators of businesses, and of course, the legislators. So legislators, they will make legislation to be enforced, right, to ensure compliance with food safety requirements. In Ontario, we have the Food Premises Regulations and the Health Protection and Promotion Act. And these two bits of the regulation, they set out the requirements that every owner operator must follow. And we're talking about business now and not necessarily consumers, right? That every operator must follow. The number one cause of foodborne illness is handling of food, temperature abuse. Temperature abuse meaning food is held within what we call the danger zone. That zone in which multi-organisms can multiply and levels that when somebody consumes that food, it will make them sick. So you want to ensure that food is thoroughly cooked. In the food premises regulation, we previously had temperature cooking temperatures, right? For beef, for example, it was 71%, for your burger, 74% for poultry. Those requirements have been removed from the food premise regulation, but they are still strongly recommended. So the best means of ensuring that that product is safe is by thoroughly cooking it. And once cooked, you want to ensure that it is adequately stored below 4 degrees centigrade. So you want to store below 4 degrees centigrade to prevent any organism from growing. So number one, temperature control. You want to ensure that the environment that the food is being prepared in is clean. Cleaning and sanitization is very, very important. And washing, that's one means and very, very common means of contaminating food, contamination or cross-contamination. So, and washing is not only good for food safety, of course, we know that it's important in COVID prevention. So unwashing, temperature abuse or temperature control, safe storage, preventing contamination, I would say maybe are the important ones. You need to ensure that food is obtained from an adequate, from a source that is inspected. So an inspected source, safe source, adequately stored, prepared, and served, and that should be. There have, things like, cleaning and sanitization, rodent control in your food premises, trained and certified food handlers. But if you can do, the major things, ensuring safe supplies, safe source, temperature controls, and the satisfactory cooking, then should be okay.
Thank you very much for that, Dr. Thompson. We're going to have you stay on the line with us. We will be heading to our second guest to find out why now is a good time to start a business. I'm going to bring in Chef Karima into the show.
Hello, Mr. Brooks.
Welcome and good evening, Chef
Good evening.
Karima Beckles. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
I am doing terrific, and thank you for joining us tonight. Again, how's your family in this time?
Everybody's good. Like Dr. Thompson said,
Fantastic.
we're here. It's
Okay.
cold outside.
Well, cold outside.
We're all working still, so.
For sure, for sure. So, Chef Karima is a first-generation Canadian. She's of Trinidadian and Tobago descent. She has over 20 years in the hospitality industry, and she loves her food vocabulary and has a passion for cooking. So with that, we're going to find out from her a few things, because she's recently started her own business, running a restaurant, and we're going to find out from her some of the interesting things that went through her mind when she thought to do that, especially in a time like this. So, Chef Karima, I have to first start with, why is this a great time to start a business? We're in the middle of a pandemic, and here you are starting a brand new restaurant business. So tell us about your mindset when it came to this type of opportunity during this time.
So when it all started last year, almost a year ago, I was just doing catering. Then the whole March 11th, March 12th happened, and everything got locked down and closed up. So I was kind of stuck. I started volunteering at the Jamaican Canadian Association. And with doing that, Easter came along. And so I said, okay, let me do my Easter buns like I normally do. And in doing so, a lot of my customers asked if I, would still do deliveries of food to them because they didn't want to cook all the time. So that's how it started again. And doing that, I was renting kitchens and the pricing was getting a little bit too much. So I decided I need to find a bigger space, a kitchen space, but to find that was a little difficult. So I looked into takeout restaurants and here I am. Came September, October, I'm looking, I'm searching, and I found the space and it's a nice size, not too big, 1,000 square feet. It's a strict takeout. So even if COVID didn't happen, it'd be a great location anyways, right? So why did I do that? Because I'm crazy? I don't know. But it's working out, it's working out. And
Well,
yeah, that's it.
it takes a lot to take that leap of faith because even in the best of times, we're a little bit afraid to take that leap. So it is
Yes.
very impressive to actually see you take this leap while in a pandemic because it shows a whole lot of confidence. So
It's confidence, bold facedness, um, belief in yourself, but it's a lot of work. The pandemic, so a lot of people aren't coming out. So it's mostly deliveries, either through myself or Uber Eats and those different types of delivery services, right? So hopefully, when they let up a little bit, more people can come out. And plus, it's winter too, right? So it is. Yes, I'm crazy. So that's just it. Nothing. That's all I could say.
now there's a lot of food safety protocols that have to be followed now, especially for those restaurateurs and in the hospitality industry. And of course, there's a cost to that. You know, how do you find that cost, and how are you able, or tell us about how easy it is to maneuver around these protocols? Does it inhibit business? Is it hard to do? And does it affect your bottom line a lot when it comes to spending on the sanitation equipment and so on?
I was already doing that, so it's not a extra step. I was already doing those things
Okay.
because that's how I was brought up. Where I'm West Indian, you know what I mean. So we had certain things that our sanitation was always something that was very important as we're cooking. So I was already doing all of those things. So this coming along, these new protocols
Right.
are
So you were
are
already
easy.
operating from a level of this protocol already.
Yeah,
So it
exactly.
has nothing to do with you.
Exactly. No, no, not really.
Well, that's great. That is great. Let's delve into the business side of things a little bit. You know, being from the community and a lot of us who peruse the businesses establishments, customer service can sometimes, be lacking in some of our businesses. How do you feel about that? And what is your take on customer service when it comes to those who come to your establishment to give you business?
Once you enter the door, it's like your home. So I treat you like family. We chat for a little bit, catch some jokes, and I feed you. You pay me, and then I let you go.
So are you saying that you're service with a smile?
Service with love, smile, happiness.
Excellent. That is terrific. Now, I was reading a little bit about your bio, and you did say that food is a part of your personality.
Yes,
Where did you develop this love for food?
my mother.
Tell us about her.
Well, she passed away in 2002.
Okay. Our condolences
Um,
there.
so
But tell us
She
how
taught
she
me.
influenced you in that
She
area.
t- she taught me how to cook.
Okay.
So, first generation, you you start off by taking the stuff out the freezer, you know, and you got to make sure it's thawed out for her to come home. And I decided that I want to learn how to do more. So she said, okay, start seasoning it up like this, showed me how to do that, do this. And I just started wanting to do more. So my mom just taught me everything. And my tagline is my mom had me cooking since the 80s. So literally since I was 10 years old,
Very nice. That is
I was
wonderful.
cooking. So it's all about my mom for me. And then culinary school.
So you started out helping your mom. You're doing some seasonings. You're doing some cleaning up. You're starting to cook. Tell us about that moment where you were somewhere and the light just went on and you said, you know what, I want to make this a career. I want to start my own business doing this. Tell us where that was or when, and what the feeling was like when you thought about that.
When I went back to school, it was 2000. I went to culinary school. I was watching Food Network and I saw Emeril Lagasse, and I decided that I was cooking already and having get-togethers and entertaining my friends before we'd go out. So I said, okay, maybe this is something I could do. I went back to school, and when I finished, I said I need to figure out how I can work for myself.
Hmm.
Because back in 2000, minimum wage was very minimum, right? So working for yourself was the goal. And I worked towards that. I've been self employed since 2014, and it's been a roller coaster, but I love it and I wouldn't change anything about that. So,
Excellent, excellent. Tell us, Chef Karima, what drives your passion? Like, you are so passionate about what you do. Tell us what drives that.
the love of food, I love feeding people. I like seeing or hearing their reactions after they've eaten my food. And then what drives me even more are my 4 children. And I would love to leave, I'm doing all this to leave a legacy for them.
That is perfect because, a lot of times we go through life and it's so busy that we forget about leaving, as you say, that legacy for our children's children. So I'm so pleased to hear you say that, is to know that your grandchildren are already secured because, we're always looking after our children's children because the children are always okay. It's their
Well, I
children
do
that
have a
we
grandson.
think
So,
about. So I'm very honored to hear you say that. Being
yeah.
in the restaurant field and the cooking field, the chef and all that, tell us what your favorite dish is that you just enjoy preparing so much, and tell us why that's your favorite.
My favorite dish to prepare is a traditional Trinidadian Sunday dinner. And why is because whenever I make that, I remember my mom. I remember her in everything I do, but the Sunday dinner
Right.
was something that we did up until she passed away.
I
So
see.
that's the one I love. So that entails like stewed chicken, roast beef, callaloo, macaroni pie, some sort of fish, potato salad, green salad. It's just a whole thing, right? So that's my favorite, and that's the memory with that.
That is excellent. Well, I'm so glad that, to hear that your mom is such a big part of your influence and everything that you do daily just reminds you of her. So that's some very good memories that just continually come to you on a daily basis,
Yeah, yeah,
for sure. So, you've opened this new restaurant. So
yes.
tell us a little bit about where we can find it, how we can support it, and what are your hours. So what can you share about that?
The location is Dundas and Jarvis area, so 203 Dundas Street East, 1 block of Jarvis, the corner of Dundas and George. My hours are Monday to Thursday, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Friday and Saturday, sorry, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. And
And, and
what?
for and for our international viewers, that would be in Toronto.
Yes, Toronto. Sorry.
that is
Yes.
fine. So whenever you're visiting Toronto after COVID is over, feel free
Yes.
to check out Chef Karima's restaurant,
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
she'll be
We'll be
greeting
there
you with a
anywhere.
smile, customer service with a smile.
Yes.
Chef Karima, we thank you for joining us tonight and sharing your perspective on your business. We appreciate that. We have no
Thank you.
doubt that you will continue to be successful and that your community will support you because that's,
They have been. I can honestly say the community, the new community, because I'm downtown, that's a whole new community, but overall, they have been very supportive.
excellent. Well, we thank you for coming on. We're going to take a short break right now, but we're going to come back on the other side. If you have any questions, feel free to call in on our phone line. We've got our resident expert here that can take questions for you. And I will also talk about the stock market and all the big things happening in the stock market. So we'll be right back.
You can officially download our free GBKM app from the App Store and the Google Play Store, okay? Now, what is the best thing about this app? Well, it is that you have all of the features from the website that is portable, in your hand, ready to use and ready to go. Now I'm just gonna guide you through what we have available on our app right now. So here, this is the page where you can watch our live TV, our GBCam TV. You can watch live, enjoy the shows live. Now, if you go to our tabs, you can check out any shows you missed in the past shows tab, and that takes you to the past shows that have happened in the last week. And if you just scroll down, you can see those past shows in order, chronological order with their dates next to them as well. So if you've missed a show, no worries, just go to the past show tab and you can catch up on your favorite GBKM entertainment. Going back to our menus tab again, you can check out our upcoming shows so you do not miss any past shows. You can check out our breaking news section, which is our newest section as well, to learn of any breaking news within the diaspora, across the globe, all of that good stuff, so you can stay engaged and up to date on what's going on with our breaking news tab on the GBKM app, and also available on the website. And as you can see, there are other tabs there. You can listen to our live radio, our live TV. You can learn more about our on-air personalities by going to our OAP tab, all of that good stuff.
Hello and welcome back to the Smart Investing Show with Alton Brooks. Tonight's topic, of course, was the elephant in the room called COVID-19. Our guests, our expert panel, consisting of Dr. Thompson, food safety expert, breaking down a lot of the important information that we need to know, and also an entrepreneur who says, you know what, I'm rolling up my sleeves and I'm going to start a business in this environment, and it's not going to stop me. And we just want to wish her kudos on that, Chef Karima. Now, we're also going to open the phone lines, so if anyone wishes to call in and ask our panelists any questions, feel free to do so. But in the meantime, let's talk a little bit about Bay Street and Wall Street. If you've been following the stock market over the last 4 to 6 weeks, you'd have seen some interesting phenomenon happening. And you might have heard a little bit about it, but let me tell you a little bit more about it. We've got basically people who run the stock market, and you've got people who are the smaller fish, so to speak, who buy stocks on the market. The bigger folks, sometimes when they make the rules, they make it to their advantage. And one of the advantages of being one of the rule makers is that you have the ability, or you've created the ability, to sell stocks that you yourself don't even own. So if I own some stocks, whether it be 100 shares, someone can come to me and say, I'm going to borrow your shares, and I'll do with it whatever I want, and then I'll give it back to you for a price. So we have entities called hedge funds, and their job is to just sort of look over the landscape and basically find injured companies who, for whatever reasons, having a tough time. They're losing money. Their cash flow is terrible. Their products are not in demand. And therefore, they're vulnerable. And actually, they're vulnerable of going out of business. So some of these hedge funds will fly down and they'll circle the wagon and they'll buy some shares. They'll make it look like they're kind of interested in your company. They're checking you out. But what they're really doing is finding out if, in fact, their gut instinct is correct. Is there something wrong happening? And if so, then part of their job is to help you actually go out of business. So how they do that is that they will go on the market and they'll find everybody who owns shares in a particular company. And from there, they will borrow the shares. And what they turn around and do is actually sell them. So when it comes to supply and demand, when the demand goes up, price goes up. When demand goes down, price goes down. If everyone is selling your stock, your price is going to go down. If everyone's buying your stock, it's going to go up. So what these hedge funds do when you're in trouble and you're having a hard time is that they will sell a ton of your stock to drive the price of your stock down, and then they tell everyone, you're having problems, run out of the company, sell your shares. So what happens is, because they make the system, they are actually allowed to sell shares that they don't own in order to buy them back later at a discounted price. So when they tell you to run for the hills, they have already sold those shares at a very high price. And now you listen to what they say and you run for the hills, the price drops, they in turn buy those shares back at a lower price. And that's how they make billions of dollars on a daily basis. Now, in the last couple of years, we've had something called the smartphone explode. Everyone has one. We've also have the last couple of years where you can actually get apps that allow you to trade for free. You have things called Robinhood, and most of you might have heard of Wealth Simple. You can buy and sell shares for no cost. So what this has done is it has emboldened and basically charged everyone in getting accounts like these so they can actually take a few $100 and trade. And it's not costing them anything except if the stock goes up or down. Versus having an account at a big five where you're paying maybe $10 per transaction. And if you're trading often, that can add up. What's also happened over the last few years is a lot of people online have started mobilizing. They've started creating chat rooms. And they've looked at the hedge funds making billions and they're saying, well, we're the little guy. Why can't we make some of that money? And in fact, we're quite angry at that. We don't like the fact that they can put companies out of business just because they're having a tough time. So what we're going to do is, we've got the smartphones, we've got the free trading. We're going to start talking to each other and saying, we're going to take one stock and we're going to buy that stock up to get back at these hedge funds to drive the price up. Because remember, when the funds sell these shares, the price goes down. But now you have hundreds and thousands and millions of different people buying up the shares as a way to get back at the hedge funds who are trying to profit off that. And that's what happened with a stock called GameStop. GameStop, you might have seen that play out over the last little while. That stock was maybe between $10 and $20 for the longest while. Then one day that it doubled. And then the next day it went up 100%. And then the next day 100% till it reached $400 in about 3 weeks. All because folks online said, you know what, we're trying to get back at these hedge funds. We want them to lose billions for shutting us out and keeping us out of the market. Now, one of the things that some of these bulletin boards and other traders online have found out is that those who make the system will not allow you to break it. So what companies like Robinhood have done is limit the amount of shares you can actually buy. So even though you're trying to work with others to buy these shares, if they limit you to only buying one share, which they have done with the GameStop share, that does not put a lot of pressure on the price of the share to go up. So you've actually seen it crash all the way from $400 to as low as $90 in the past week. because of that inability for people to actually buy as many shares as they want. So the moral of the story is that as the small people buying stocks, you can't beat the system because they make the rules. So you have to be a little bit more shrewd in how you do your investing. And you have to also think a bit more about why you're investing. Is it just to follow the crowd, or is it because there's a real legitimate reason for doing it? Mind you, the reason that everyone picked on this particular stock was because the hedge funds themselves had gone well overboard in how they were treating it. You might have 1 million shares of a particular company, which means theoretically you should only be able to borrow 1 million shares because it's 1-for-1. When it came to this particular stock, the hedge funds had borrowed 50% more stock than actually existed. So that's why people were taking offense to that. Why are they able to borrow against something that does not exist? Because once you have 1-for-1 on every stock that's available, how do you end up then still selling another 50% more of that same stock without actually having someone to borrow it from? So that was one of the triggers for why folks were reacting in the way that they were. And, I think it's something that's going to be here to stay when companies try to take extreme advantage of other companies, in this case, hedge funds trying to basically put people out of business without even owning shares or borrowing legitimate shares. That is a problem. And I don't really fault folks for actually coming together to try to stop that. And in a free market system, I think that should be allowed. If you are allowed to borrow shares that you don't even own or borrow shares that you don't even have access to in order to try to hurt a company to bring it down, then you should be able to buy as many shares as you wish as well. So the moral of the story is that, if you wish to get involved in that, that's fine, but I would suggest just to stay away from the fray. There are a lot more other stocks that you can buy that can certainly bring you much more profits without putting all that risk. Because if you're the person who bought at $400 and it's sitting at $90 today, hopefully that was play money, because if it wasn't, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. Now, over the next few weeks, I'll be sharing with you many tidbits on how you can become a more successful trader. You'll be getting information that'll help guide you to be safer in your investing. I find a lot of people right now are just listening to friends who are giving them tips, but not necessarily informed tips, and just buying things for the sake of it. But we're hoping to take you from just doing something for the sake of it to actually being informed about it and making an informed decision that'll then help you to have less volatility in the value of your investments. It's all about building generational wealth for our children and our children's children. And so the more we learn about investing and making our money work for us, is the less harder we will have to work ourselves. Because you always want your money to work 10 times as hard as you do. And we all know that we all work extremely hard. So just imagine if your money was working 10 times as hard as you do. It'll certainly add up real quick. And by the time you know it, you'll have a lot of assets to look at, to pass on to the next generation. For this evening, we thank you for coming through. We thank you for watching our program. We certainly hope to have you again in the future as we talk business and we talk stocks. And we certainly will hope that you'll tell a friend to tell a friend, download the app, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you for joining us for Smart Investing with Alton Brooks. Take care.
You can officially download our free GBKM app from the App Store and the Google Play Store, okay? Now, what is the best thing about this app? Well, it is that you have all of the features from the website that is portable, in your hand, ready to use and ready to go. Now, I'm just gonna guide you through what we have available on our app right now. So here, this is the page where you can watch our live TV, our GBCam TV. You can watch live, enjoy the shows live. Now, if you go to our tabs, you can check out any shows you missed in the past shows tab, and that takes you to the past shows that have happened in the last week. And if you just scroll down, you can see those past shows in order, chronological order, with their dates next to them as well. So if you've missed a show, no worries, just go to the past show tab and you can catch up on your favorite GBKM entertainment. Going back to our menus tab again, you can check out our upcoming shows so you do not miss any past shows. You can check out our breaking news section, which is our newest section as well, to learn of any breaking news within the diaspora, across the globe, all of that good stuff, so you can stay engaged and up to date on what's going on with our breaking news tab on the GBKM app, and also available on the website. And as you can see, there are other tabs there. You can listen to our live radio, our live TV. You can learn more about our on-air personalities by going to our OAP tab, all of that good stuff. You can officially download our